Hello and welcome to another edition of For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We are here to talk about health today. We'll start out with the American Heart Association's Michelle Karn. She is the communications director. I have to say welcome to the show for the first time on TV, but we've worked together in radio, so in a sense we know each other, we do, but welcome to the TV show.
Thanks so much for having me.
American Heart Association, I think everybody's heard of it. They kind of know what it is, but maybe kind of explain it a little bit better.
Well, the mission of the American Heart Association is to build healthier lives free of cardiovascular diseases and stroke. It is the #1 killer of both men and women, and so we're bringing that awareness to the community through a lot of programs, looking at what people can do to live healthier, and then what risk factors they have towards developing cardiovascular disease.
What should people be the most concerned about as far as cardiovascular disease, heart health in general?
Well, you know, it's understanding your genetic history and your family history. If there's heart disease in your family, you're more likely to develop heart disease in your lifetime. The most simple thing that you can do really is just to get active. 30 minutes a day of exercise will do a body good. Also looking at what you're putting in your body. What is your nutrition? Are you eating the things that you should be eating? And do you know your blood pressure, glucose, cholesterol? Do you know what's happening in your own body so that you can manage that risk?
So when people think of the American Heart Association, they may not realize that it's much more all-encompassing than they might imagine. They think American Heart Association, well, it's about your heart. Don't smoke, maybe stay active, but they really might not be aware of how all-encompassing it is.
And also we're the #1 provider of CPR. Being able to do hands-only CPR if someone drops from a heart attack is really important, and we want everyone in the community to be educated on how simple it is.
Now, your sort of neck of the woods, your area is part of Connecticut and part of Rhode Island, right? Talk about that.
That's right. I cover Rhode Island, southeastern Connecticut, and southeastern Massachusetts. But we have staff in all 50 states, and we represent every community here in the United States.
And as the weather begins to get nicer, now that we're in spring, going into summer, the American Heart Association in general is more active in the community and obviously would like people in general to be more active. You have lots of walks and lots of other things out there. Talk about that.
Sure. Every spring we have a number of heart walks in our region. There's one in New Haven that takes place in the spring, as well as one that takes place in Bristol, Rhode Island. So no matter what you're interested in doing, there's a heart walk in your community. You can go to heartwalk.org and find one just by searching by your zip code.
What would be your #1 thing that you would want to get out to people? I know we're going to get into it with Lauren in the next segment as far as nutrition in general, but just be active? Would that be like the #1 thing?
Absolutely. You know, 30 minutes a day, you think that that's something that you can't really achieve, but, you know, breaking it up in maybe 10-minute sections, people can go for a walk in the morning, walk at lunch, and a walk after dinner, 30 minutes right there. Also thinking about, you know, setting yourself up for success, and I'm sure our next speaker will talk a little bit more about nutrition and how you can do that, but having healthy things in your household ready to go. When you're ready for a snack, instead of reaching for that cookie, maybe you're going to reach for some fresh fruit.
You only mentioned that because you saw Thin Mints here in the station.
I did. Cookies on the mind.
But that's key, isn't it? What you have in your house, if you open the cupboard and there's something healthy there, well, that's all that's there, so you're going to go for that. So when you do your grocery shopping, that's key too, isn't it?
Absolutely, and you can look for the heart check mark. The American Heart Association has a program that looks at how healthy the items are available in the grocery stores. And if you see that heart check mark, you know that it's a reasonable amount of sodium, a reasonable amount of fat and calories in that item, and you know it's a healthy choice.
For the American Heart Association, depending on the time of year it is, like for example, March is National Nutrition Month.
Sure.
Depending on the time of year, your focus changes?
Yes, so March is National Nutrition Month. In April, we celebrate National Walking Day on April 2nd, getting people to get out and get that 30 minutes a day. Then in May is Stroke Month. And in June is CPR and AED Awareness Week, the first week of June. So getting through the spring, there's a lot of topics that you can learn more about.
I would imagine that the average person may think that learning CPR might be difficult, or they might think that they may not have the ability to be able to pull it off, and they might be a little standoffish about it. But is that the case?
Well, a lot of people are afraid of doing CPR, but really now we're promoting hands-only CPR. So there's no need.
What's the difference?
Well, through our research, found that it is more important to provide compressions immediately than to provide breaths. Everyone's always afraid of the mouth-to-mouth, and we understand that. But don't be afraid of doing CPR. Just get in there and get it done, because you could really save a life. We know that if a victim receives CPR on site, their chances of survival are so much higher than if you're waiting for the ambulance to arrive after calling 911. So we want people to call 911 and press hard and fast in the center of the chest until help arrives.
So that would probably be the simplest way to describe it. But if you're not doing the procedure correctly, could you do more damage than good if you're not sure what you're doing?
No, and that's the question everyone always asks, can I hurt them? And, the answer I always put forth is that, you could break a rib, but you're pumping vital oxygen through the person's body and keeping them alive. A broken rib we can fix.
Right, that heals. Yeah.
Right.
What about the concern that people may have, and I'm sorry to say, this is a fact of life, about there being some kind of liability by doing it wrong? People are worried about that.
Sure, and we understand that people could be worried about that, but Good Samaritan laws protect you in doing that. So don't be afraid to do CPR. Just get in there, do those compressions hard and fast until help arrives.
This past summer, you and I did a walk together.
We did.
And the great thing about a walk, at least one of Michelle Karn's walks, is it's not just a walk. There is so much other activity going on at this event. So describe it in general. Paint a picture for everybody.
Sure. Heart Walks are one of our most fun events.
It's fantastic.
The whole family comes out, activities for kids, healthy snacks.
Dogs. I saw dogs. Yeah.
A lot of people like to dress their dogs in the Heart Walk bandanas.
That's right.
and enjoy it.
And hey, they need to stay heart healthy too, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Our Rocky Neck Heart Walk, which takes place in October, is how we met. Mm-hmm. And that event is a lot of fun. We're at the beautiful Rocky Neck State Park. The event is a reasonable walk. It's a 5K, and you can get out there and enjoy the time with your family. A lot of people even walk in honor of someone they love or that they've lost with customized T-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
Or
saw a lot of that.
It's really fun.
Yep.
I've even seen some folks with high heel shoes walking in honor of a woman who had heart disease.
Wow. What happens when you kick your shoes off at the end of that? Some blisters there maybe, or what?
It's worth it.
So dogs are allowed, strollers, baby strollers, all that,
Yep.
regardless of the weather, because I think the day we did it was a little overcasty, maybe a little bit of rain, but that didn't stop everybody from coming out. Matter of fact, that day there was an accident on the highway, and so there was a little bit of a delay, but people still came out in droves and they wanted to be a part of it, right?
People come year after year. It's something that they put on their calendar the second we release that save the date, and they're looking forward to it. They know that being part of this is making a difference in the fight against heart disease.
And when you are walking, it's at your own pace, right? There's it's not a race.
No race.
You just do it at your convenience, and you do the course, right?
Sure. And some people even choose to run or jog the race,
right.
The walk, not
right.
the race, but they enjoy it. So.
And believe it or not, there's food at this event. There's a podium where people step up and speak. Some talk about their own personal experiences. It's amazing. People always get involved in walks like this when there's a vested interest going on in their life, and for a lot of these people there is, right?
Sure. A lot of them walk in honor of someone that they've lost or someone that continues to fight heart disease. Again, it is the #1 killer, so a lot of people are affected by it in various different ways. Anybody you meet knows someone who has heart disease or has had a stroke or has high blood pressure or high cholesterol. I mean, if you really look at it, it touches us all.
It's amazing what a little walking every now and then will do to reduce things like high blood pressure, cholesterol, and just get you healthy. People that might be at risk of diabetes, things like that. There are so many positive benefits to it, aren't there?
Yeah, we talk about Life Simple 7, the 7 healthy things you can do to achieve ideal heart health. So you're looking at working out every day or exercising, just walking even, eating better, cholesterol, managing your glucose, your blood pressure, managing your weight, and also to not smoke. Smoking is really one of the most preventable causes of heart disease. Don't smoke and you'll take that. One of the Life Simple 7 is not a factor for you.
It'd be amazing how how much your life will change for the better, right?
Absolutely.
I want you to mention the website. You had mentioned that for the purposes of this show, there's a sort of a special website you're going to have people go to?
Absolutely. Since today we're focusing on National Nutrition Month, we're providing some great resources on our website. If you go to heart.org/nutrition, you will find recipes, you'll find substitutions, tips on how you can have healthy snacks in the household, and then how to shop and create a healthy shopping list. So folks can go on the website. All the resources are free and available to you.
And what is the website?
It is heart.org/nutrition.
All right. And on the website, I would imagine there are links to social media. You're probably plugged into social media too.
Absolutely. You can follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/SNEHeart, or you can follow us on Twitter using the mention of @SNEHeart.
Social media is so key, isn't it, to getting the word out nowadays,
Absolutely.
because that's really what everybody's on. You know?
We want to make sure people are engaged with us and also able to access all of our information.
Good stuff. Michelle Karn, the Communications Director for the American Heart Association in Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts. You're all over the place. And I really hope that I get to work with you again at another walk again this summer.
Absolutely. Me too.
Let's take a break and come back. We've got a lot more to get to. I'm Sean Murphy. This is For the Record. Stay with us. Welcome back to For the Record. I'm Sean Murphy. We continue our discussion of health and good cardio health, as a matter of fact, too, and good nutrition. In this segment, we have Lauren Nichols, who is a nutritionist, and we welcome you to the show for the first time. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Now, do you want to crack a joke with me, too, about seeing the... Actually, no, I got you on this one, because you saw the box of Thin Mints out there,
Yep.
but you admit that you're a fan of or not the Thin Mints, but some kind of Girl Scout
Oh,
cookie.
Thin Mints. A couple others. Absolutely.
So nutrition doesn't necessarily have to just be, fruits and vegetables then all the
It
time.
does not. Those are
Okay.
very important, but cookies can certainly fit in.
Let's start off with a sort of a general definition in case people don't exactly understand what a nutritionist is.
Well, I am a clinical dietitian
Okay.
at Bacchus Hospital.
And I was going to
so
ask you the difference between dietitian and nutritionist, too.
a lot of it is some schooling, and to become a registered dietitian, you also have to complete certain coursework, clinical work, and pass an exam.
Okay. Has there been such a thing as a dietitian or a nutritionist that wasn't in shape? You kind of have to be. You have to be eating healthy, which means it would totally be hypocritical of you not to be in shape, right?
It would be. A lot of times, I think, in general, we try to practice what we preach for the most part, primarily because of what we've learned and, what we know as far as the good things that eating healthy can do and the bad things that, not eating healthy or not exercising can do.
Would people be horrified if they knew what you know about poor eating and what it's doing to your body, or even lack of exercise?
They might, and that's kind of part of our mission, is to educate people about, the bad things that can happen when you don't do what you're supposed to, as far as eating fruits and vegetables and whole grains and trying to avoid those greasy, fatty foods that can be, unfortunately, so tasty.
Yeah, so tasty.
So
It's not
tempting.
fair. Well, why don't we get into it then? Why don't we throw a little shock value in there? What are some of the bad things that can happen if you don't adhere to a relatively good diet or lack of exercise?
There's a huge variety of things, unfortunately. One is, certainly gaining weight, which can then, progress into certain conditions such as certainly cardiac health, heart disease, whether it's high blood pressure, high cholesterol, which increases your risk for a heart attack or perhaps a stroke. Also diabetes, which is also a risk factor for heart disease. And it kind of progresses from there, but those are some of the main ones.
Diabetes is such a diabolical disease because it's such a cascading effect of everything else. It could be the cause of so many other bad things that can happen to your body. Everything from heart disease to, sleep apnea, neuropathy. There are so many things that it's a real domino effect, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely, and primarily it's because your blood sugar is, your blood goes everywhere. So if you have high blood sugar, it can affect every part of your body. As you mentioned, the peripheral neuropathy, so it goes to your feet, can affect your eyes, your kidneys, and again, your heart, it can go everywhere.
How is it that someone, I guess if they come to your attention, are they considered a patient of yours as a dietitian or a nutritionist? Is that how it works?
For my current position, yes, I work primarily with inpatients. So it's people who have come to the hospital for whatever reason. I'm primarily on the cardiac unit, so typically it's not because they plan to come in here. It's they had some chest pain, or if it's a heart failure patient, they're starting to accumulate a lot of that fluid. So they're there. Some of the good thing is they're a captive audience for me. they can't really go anywhere else.
That's not funny at all.
However, it's you don't get a lot of follow-up all the time unless it's because they come back in for either the same reason or something different.
So in other words, they're not on the phone checking back in with you after the fact, which is unfortunate, but and it could only hurt them. But when someone has a cardiac issue in general, when they go into the hospital, they might not immediately think that a nutritionist, a dietitian would be involved in that process, right?
They don't always, and it's offered to all the patients. The nurses, when the person is admitted, asks a variety of nutrition-related questions, including, would you like to speak with a dietitian? And even if they say no, we might be seeing them anyway. So I think at least a handful might not want to speak with me.
Why wouldn't they want to?
They think that we're going to say everything they don't want to hear.
Exactly.
So
just like going to the hospital in the first place or seeing a doctor, you kind of avoid it because they're going to say something bad, right?
Right.
Yeah.
When really it's, we're there to, again, hopefully educate them, give them some tips on things. If they do have certain lifestyle habits they should change, we can educate them on how. At least personally, I don't go in to scold them because that doesn't really get any education across.
Yeah.
You don't. When somebody starts yelling at you, you don't want to hear it, so you kind of shut down. So.
But with that said, when you talk with a person about making changes in their life, I assume that the best way to do it would be kind of gradually, instead of cold turkey on a lot of things, which could kind of cause them to fall back into bad habits down the road, I would imagine. How do you do it in a slow pace to kind of get them to make really what it is a lifestyle change, so that they're not even thinking about making those bad decisions anymore, right?
A lot of times it can help to pick maybe one or two things to change.
Right.
So if it's a diet thing and that you're not making good choices, or say start by choosing to cut back on your portions. So still eat the same foods that you've been eating, but cut back on how much you're eating. And once you get comfortable with that, choose another thing to change. So if you know that you haven't been eating enough vegetables, now's the time to start introducing more vegetables into your diet. And as that becomes more of a habit instead of just a diet, I don't really like the word
That's
diet,
exactly right,
even though it's in my profession name. It's really more of making it the habit instead
Because
of
diet is a temporary thing, right? And and you want it to be a permanent thing, a lifestyle change.
Right.
Right? And that's
Absolutely.
that's the biggest thing. It's like, for some people it's easy to lose weight, but it's people who put it back on means that they kind of were just dieting for a while or exercising for a while, and then either got bored with it or maybe just weren't seeing the progress that they wanted to, and then it came back on, and consequently that affects their diet, because they probably aren't eating the right foods if they put it back on, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And certainly motivation can be a factor. You have to, as you mentioned, if you don't see the progress that you want, you either give up or you try something different. And I think a lot of people, with everything else going on in life, there's a lot of other stressors, a lot of things going on. They tend to just go back and fall back into their old ways.
And why does that happen? What is it? They're just not seeing the success that they want to, or has it become too difficult for them to keep up that type of a lifestyle change because they're so, used to the bad habits that they have?
I think it's a variety of reasons, and different for different people. It can be a convenience factor. Unfortunately, a lot of convenient and quick foods are not the healthiest, where, even though you say, oh, well, fresh fruits and vegetables, you can eat them raw, how much more convenient can you get? But it takes, planning and going to the store, and still you have to, rinse them and cut them. And
that takes time and effort and work.
It takes time and effort. And certainly if it's a family type of thing where there are kids who may or may not be a little bit on the picky side, it might not be worth it to you to try some of those different foods that are healthier when your kids are just going to kind of turn up their nose and not eat it.
Is it still a mantra for to people to shop on what do they say around the outside?
The perimeter of the store.
Yeah, the perimeter. That's right, because that's where the produce is and the.
It is. It's where the produce is. It's where, the dairy can be, certainly the fresh meats, so the less processed. But it can get a little tricky because typically that's where the deli is, and that's where...
That's my perfect route right there.
Depending on the store,
The
one
bakery
side,
sometimes can be on
yep, the bakery's in the corner,
Yeah.
or perhaps the frozen section with the ice cream. So you can kind of use that as a guide. And there's certainly still some good healthy foods within those aisles. So you can get, that's where the cereals, the whole grains with the breads, that kind of foods are. So
As a dietitian and nutritionist, and I know it's not an ideal situation, but if somebody is really lacking in the vegetables, and what is your opinion of things like supplements or anything that can augment what they're not getting if they are in fact not eating the vegetables and fruits? Is that better than nothing?
some of them can be.
Okay.
Certainly, a multivitamin is one kind of basic one that's, pretty easy to obtain. That can be useful in, balancing it out. Really, we recommend trying to get most of your main nutrients from your food. And it doesn't have to be, if you don't like a lot of vegetables, you can stick with the ones you like. Certainly experiment with preparing them differently to see if that helps, the taste factor, mix them in with other foods that you like. It can be okay to add certainly some spices, or even if it's a little bit of a dressing, that kind of thing to help.
It'll add calories
help
to
the
it, but at
taste.
least you're still eating the vegetables,
Absolutely.
right? Now, what about the thing that I learned, try to hit all the colors? Is that something that still goes on
we
too?
say kind of an eat your rainbow, and we don't mean Skittles. It's, the different variety of colors in produce provides different vitamins and minerals. So, try to eat the orange foods, the red ones, green, even the purple with the eggplant, that kind of thing. And it doesn't have to be all at the same meal, because that's hard. I don't think I've done that. But certainly throughout the week, trying to get a different variety of colors on your plate.
What's your opinion of juicing? I mean, that's hard, but I guess you're still intaking the fruits and vegetables that way, right?
You
Sort of
are.
a fad thing.
It's a little bit of a fad thing.
Yeah.
You certainly get the nutrients as far as the vitamins and minerals go. However, with juicing, you don't get the fiber, which is a huge benefit of having more fruits and vegetables. There are some of the blenders out now, like the Ninja or NutriBullet, that you basically keep that whole fruit or that
If you're
whole
keeping the
vegetable
skin
in
or
there.
whatever in there, that's supposed to be part of the
That
fiber.
can help.
Yeah.
And certainly if, that's one of the only ways you like your vegetables, as far as getting, more of a smoothie effect in there, that's, at least you're getting some, but I wouldn't necessarily depend on the juicing side of things.
Can you talk a little bit more about the fact that March is National Nutrition Month? Maybe expound on it a little bit.
Absolutely. March is National Nutrition Month every year. This year we're focusing on food tasting good. So working on still having those healthy foods, but making sure that they taste so that you enjoy them. A lot of people say to me, oh, well, if it tastes good, it's not going to be good for me, which I kind of argue with.
Right.
Just because certainly you can add different herbs and spices that don't have any of the added either sodium or fat. Or if you need to, you can add a little bit of something like that. So maybe a little bit of butter or a little bit of olive oil to help bring out some of that flavor. But work on different spices. Certainly you can go with different cultural roots. So if you want to make a meal more the Mediterranean side, you can add some different spices from that area. Or even, if it's more of a Latino or Hispanic meal, you can add all the pepper you want.
Man, I feel like I'm talking
to
to a master chef here. You're making it sound good,
Well, food is good.
Yeah.
I became a dietitian because I love food. So it's, and I enjoy food that tastes good. So if it doesn't taste any good, if it tastes like
You're not gonna
cardboard,
eat it anyway.
I'm probably not going to eat it. I'll
Right.
have to add something.
So you're a nutritionist, a dietitian that says it's okay in moderation. You got to be able to enjoy life a little bit. Just ease back on it a little bit. Ease off on the stuff with the preservatives and the fast food and the greasy food and all that.
I am.
Be healthy. And I'm sure even as a dietitian and nutritionist, you would encourage activity, physical activity, to go along with the proper diet, right?
Absolutely. That's a huge part of maintaining a healthy lifestyle. Certainly, I focus on the food side of things in my career. But, even as Michelle was mentioning, the 30 minutes a day, and it certainly doesn't have to be all at once. I think that's what people really focus on. They say, I don't have that 30-minute chunk of time to really go out there and work up the sweat. And it can be, parking further away from the store, taking the stairs, going for that 10-minute walk at lunch to try to work it all together.
You want to mention a website one more time before we wrap it up?
Sure, we have eatright.org. is the American Nutrition and Dietetics Association.
All right. Been a pleasure having you on the show today, Laura Nichols, nutritionist. We kind of feel better about ourselves after listening to you and Michelle
I'm glad.
this morning. So thanks for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for joining us for another edition of For the Record. You can see this show and many others on our YouTube site. We will see you next time. Take care.